We've just come out of a panel that may never happen again, the two Gudinskis together, and you guys didn't even fight. You were very similar.
Look,
we didn't get around to it, unfortunately.
We need to keep those sort of things. You keep those sort of things behind closed doors, or you try to, and nothing wrong with a bit of banter. But I thought I'd give you a great line for a headline for your column. So I actually, I thought that would shake us both into existence.
I was in shock when I saw it.
But if you read the rest of the story, you wouldn't have been in shock. But look, it's inspiring. You can tell by the mechanics and the calmness and the way Matt speaks, and it's a whole new world for us now in the group, and it gets getting better and better.
Yeah. Obviously, you do a few different things, Matt. Obviously, driving a lot of the future stuff, digital. Yep. Do you work on many projects together, or do you divide them up fairly early?
No, definitely. I mean, the whole strategy of the group moving forward is something that we're talking about on a day-to-day basis, and really, evolving together. But I guess I more focus on a lot of the labels on a day-to-day basis.
Intelligence has been Matt's baby, really. Yeah. You work together, and then you divide up really who's responsible. He's much more responsible, so he'll get most of
it. Yeah, definitely more on the labels, and Dad more focused on the touring side. So.
Yeah. Obviously, there was a bit of an attack on the government and the lack of government funding in that. Is that something that you've been waiting to?
I was very careful. Look, it wasn't an attack on the government. They're a new government. It was an absolute opportunity for the government to actually stand up and do something. So I'd like to make that clear. And when you're writing about it, and I want you to write about it, it was not an attack. It was an opportunity, because they're in a government, in a new government. I mean, they've got a lot of issues to deal with, but this is not a hard issue. The economics make sense. And what really, I guess, stirred up was 3 weeks ago, I read an article about what the state of Ontario is doing, and I've been watching Canada, which is not a much bigger country than ours, and the amount of money that's been poured into contemporary music, and not just the artists, some of the newer companies setting up, which from my point of view is more competition to me. But look, you've got to be realistic. That doesn't scare me, but I think it should be done, because there's so much employment opportunity in music, and there's so much benefit. And when you talk about the amount of money all these international tours are bringing in, and etc., it just seems that it can't be slagged off as a bunch of lefties, or as a bunch of hippies, or as a bunch of untogether rock stars.
I think we just more want the alternative music industry to be recognised by the government, that what it's contributing to this country, because as Dad said out there, it's a multi-billion-dollar business, and whether it be from the touring acts coming in, some of the great Australian acts are doing well overseas. It just seems there's no acknowledgement of that, and as Dad said,
very little acknowledgement of it.
And I think there's definitely acknowledgement once you hit the pinnacle, but getting to that point, as we all know, is so hard. And whether it be what Canada's doing, as Dad mentioned, whether it be what New Zealand's done for their
Contemporary
acts.
Music Fund, the Australian Council, should be 4 times as big as it is. I mean, it's a joke. I mean, there hasn't been a decent amount of money put in. I think the last big whack that was ever put in, and it wasn't even that big a whack, was back in the Richard Alston days. Seriously, I meant what I said about Paul Keating. That whole notion of change in Australia came from him, and I don't care what government's in power. This government's in a position where they can really do something about it. And maybe I first go at it today. Maybe I was a bit attacking, but that's not what I'm trying to achieve. It's more working together with them, for them to realise and understand. Plus, it's so, I hate to talk about politics, but it's so voter friendly that, we're supporting stuff like this. Really, I mean, I know that it's much more credible maybe in the 40s, but Jesus, I know theatres employs a lot of people, and opera, etc., but give me a break. This is like comparing, a box this big to and it's just being basically ignored. I mean, what the Push, who ran this thing, have gone through up and down over the last 10 years, I mean, it's energy being wasted that should be put, not worrying about where your next funding's coming from. It should be put right back in. And I think, Bob, what you said before, I'll take a slightly, not a strong approach, but a very sensible approach with backup. And I intend to put a group of people together to do that. And as long as he's running the show okay, I'll have enough time to actually go and do it, because people are listening to me now. You know, but I've had to wait a long time for them to listen.
Cool. And I guess just finally, you mentioned it a couple of times in the panel that you've got some big things coming up in the next, year. There's one thing that I need to ask you about, maybe off camera a little bit afterwards. But is there a specific area that you're going to try and push into and really build a section of the company?
Probably not in terms of growing a particular part of the company. I mean, there's a lot of new initiatives that's going on within a lot of our existing companies. Frontier is probably going to have one of its biggest years ever in 2014, and same across the labels. But as Dad mentioned on the panel, where our eyes are wide open to be working with great up-and-coming entrepreneurs out there and really helping people, release their vision in where they think the Australian music industry should be going. And, there's probably some more movements in the festival scene as well. And
I don't want young people to be scared to think that, it's the big mushroom group and they're all encompassing and power and they're trying to... We're happy.
Well, everyone that works with us knows how we go about
things. Yeah, so it's funny, but we're happy to really look at working and helping, seed a few things as well. And it's a big difference working and seeding with a company that's independent than working and seeding with some huge corporation that are going to have you tied up left, right, centre and around the back. So, look, it's time to really embrace. And at the moment, it seems to be a very, very important time, because the music's there and our music has to get out to the world. At the moment, there's a number of artists I won't go into that I think should have had much more international success than they have. And there's not just one simple box to tick. It's a few things rolling in a row. I mean, I've been watching Tame Impala very carefully in America. I mean, they're one anthem away from being an absolutely massive band, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you for taking the time out, and I think everyone at Face the Music appreciates it as well. And all this stuff takes time, so I'll let you get back to it.
Yeah, cheers. Good stuff. Thanks.
Cheers.
Pond5.